Hello, my name is Mary Cloud, Assistant Director for Riverbridge Regional Center. Our interview today is with our forensic interviewer. We have with us Kat Stenquist, and she is here to tell you more about the service she provides to children that come to Riverbridge. Thank you, Kat, for speaking with us today. Could you please introduce yourself, your time at Riverbridge, and your past experiences that brought you here?
So I am one of 5 forensic interviewers here at Riverbridge Regional Center. I am the full-time forensic interviewer, and then our other 5 kind of help us when we need some more assistance. We have 2 interviewers that are bilingual, so we have the ability to do interviews for our Spanish-speaking children as well. I've been at Riverbridge about 7 months. But I've been doing interviews, forensic interviews since 2017. Initially, I started interviewing as a caseworker and doing interviews for the Four Corners Child Advocacy Center in Cortez, Colorado. I did a lot of interviews for the Southern Ute Indian Tribe, Mountain Ute Indian Tribe, Navajo Nation, and other Bureau of Indian Affairs interviews, as well as interviews that came through Child Protective Services.
Wonderful. Now, I think the main question people may have is what is a forensic interview?
Yeah, so a forensic interview there's really 3 parts to a forensic interview. One is that it's a neutral conversation. So I'm a neutral party. I don't have any stake. I'm not Child Protective Services, I'm not law enforcement, I'm not the district attorney, so I don't have any stake in the outcome of what's happened. I'm a neutral person, and so my goal is really to remain neutral and allow a child to tell if something has happened to them. The second part of a forensic interview is that it's child-led and developmentally appropriate. So it's up to the kid to decide what they're going to talk about, what they tell me, and I ask my questions in a way that's not leading for the kid, as well as developmentally appropriate. So I'm going to ask questions for, a 3-year-old. I'm really just going to get at the who and what of if something happened. And then the third part of a forensic interview is fact-finding. So if a kid has had something happen to them, the purpose of the interview is to really get at the facts of what happened from the child's perspective. A lot of people think that kids can't be very good witnesses, and that's a false idea. Kids make excellent witnesses, and they can really give a lot of great information about what has happened to them. And so the third part of a forensic interview is fact-finding, just getting what has happened for the kid so that the kid only has to tell their story once. It used to be when things would happen to kids that they would have to tell their story multiple times to multiple people. And that was one really re-traumatizing to the kid because they have to keep saying and saying and saying the same thing. It also was not really great if these cases had to go to court, because you could say that the child was suggestible by telling their story so many different times. Because as we all know, if we tell something once and then we're asked to tell it again, our things kind of change and details and things change, and so that's really hard. So a forensic interview is great in that we only have to really have the kid tell their story once, and we have all of the facts and information that we need, so the kid is not continually re-traumatized, as well as the facts are what they are, and it's happened once.
Interesting. So it's really important to make sure that the child feels safe and protected while they're explaining what had happened to them. Now, does a child need to be of a certain age in order to have a forensic interview? What are the ages that you have done forensic interviews?
So a child needs to have language capability. The youngest kid that I have interviewed, they had just turned 3 about 2 or 3 days before they had come to talk with me. And then I'll interview all the way up until, 18 is generally where we'll stop having forensic interviews on children, unless it's an adult with a developmental disability. If it's an adult with a developmental disability, we'll also do forensic interviews for them. And so it really kind of varies of what the information we're going to get depending on age, just because of their cognitive development. So if I interview a 3-year-old, I'm really going to get the who and the what from what's happened to them. I'm not going to get the where, the when, the number, how many times, and it's not going to be in a chronological narrative that we really like to see and present. We might get who, what, and where. And then the older we get, the more information we get. And so we can interview younger children. The thing is that we're just not going to get as much information. It doesn't mean that they can't tell you or like that it hasn't happened. They just don't have the cognitive ability to tell you all of those other details.
Interesting. Now, Frasier is our facility dog. He's a wonderful addition to our team. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here because of our social distancing going on right now. But tell us about Frasier. What role does he provide Riverbridge?
Yeah, so Frasier is a certified service dog. He was trained through Canine Companions for Independence, and we got Frasier in 2015. And so when kids come to Riverbridge, it's often really anxiety-provoking. I'm coming to this strange place, and I'm going to have to talk about what's happened to me, and I may never have told anybody, what's really happened to me. And there's a lot of anxiety about coming to Riverbridge. And Frasier just provides this really calming presence that kids really react to in a positive way. And so Frasier can sit in on interviews with the kid. He can sit up on the couch with the kid when the kid talks, and just be that really unconditional support that dogs provide. Frasier also then can sit in therapy with our kiddos as they go through and get over what's happened to them. And then Frasier is also court certified, so he can go into court and he can sit with kids while they testify what has happened to them and continue to be that just calming presence for them that makes kids feel really grounded and confident.
Well, everyone loves Frasier. Frasier is a wonderful dog, and yes, he certainly does like to give support to our kids, and that's wonderful. Now, as a forensic interviewer, what is your background? What skills are necessary for you to be able to complete your job?
So to be a forensic interviewer, there's no special qualifications, or you don't have to have a specific degree or anything. You just have to complete, I believe it's 51 or 56 hours of a forensic interview training that is recognized by the National Children's Alliance, which is kind of the governing body of child advocacy centers, that's based in evidence, that your questions are evidence-based and shown that they're not leading or suggestible. And then you have to engage in peer review and continuing education. So peer review is when forensic interviewers get together and they review each other's interviews and give feedback about how we can ask questions better, or how we could do something better, or something that was really good. And then continuing education is, trainings and webinars about the latest research in the field of forensic interviewing. So my background is I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, and then I have a master's degree in social work, and I'm a licensed social worker. And so that's kind of my background. I was a caseworker for 3 years, and I've worked in the human services field for over 10 years at this point, doing wilderness therapy, drug rehabilitation, child protective services, and then school counseling as well, before finally falling to be a full-time forensic interviewer. And the skills that you really need there's a lot. You've got to be able to quickly develop a rapport with a kid and make a kid feel safe and comfortable in order to have them, open up to you. And so you've got to have this ability to really connect quickly with kids in an interview. you also have to have, the ability to understand in the back of your head that there's certain types of questions you have to ask. There's linguistic elements to how you ask questions to get the information that you need. You need to have a understanding of the criminal justice system and laws. And so there's a lot of different little nuanced skills that go into doing forensic interviewing. But I think the most important is that ability to quickly connect with kids and then ask your questions in a way that is warm and friendly, but also kind of detached at the same time.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing your experiences and knowledge. Now, working with children and getting them to open up about their traumatic experience, and then also having to talk with other forensic interviewers about their cases, I mean, this all must be really difficult and heavy for you at times. What do you do to take care of yourself?
It is heavy and it's difficult, but I'm incredibly grateful that kids are willing to open up to me and tell me what's happened to them. Because oftentimes I might be the first person that they've ever told really what's happened to them. And so for me, I'm incredibly grateful because while I just have to hear what's happened to them, they had to live it. And so I always keep that kind of in the back of my head. We have a great team here at Riverbridge where we do really great debriefs on cases and we're really supportive of each other. And then I also have a pretty, strict self-care regimen of I don't think about work when I'm at home, and I have a couple of little self-care things that I do every day to keep me grounded in doing this work. But for me overall, it's just I'm grateful that I get to do it and be there for the kids to allow them to tell what's happened to them.
Well, thank you for taking care of yourself and for being such a wonderful presence for children to come to you. Now, you are also our community outreach coordinator. What does that entail?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I am. So at some point, I would love to work myself out of a job and have a community where child abuse doesn't happen and I don't need to do forensic interviews about what's happened to kids or what might have happened to kids. And so the way we do that is really getting the message out to community groups, law enforcement, human services, schools about the prevalence of child abuse, kind of some signs and warning signals of child abuse, and then the services that Riverbridge provides to get kids over the trauma of child abuse. Child abuse is something that you can recover from and you can go on to lead a very successful life. It's just getting those services and not keeping it a secret. So the more that we talk about child abuse and the more that we make it not a secret, the more we can get kids help and kind of break that cycle.
Well, thank you, Kat, for your time to speak with us. Do you have any last words?
I don't. Thanks so much for talking with me today, Mary.
Well, thank you, friends and supporters, for taking the time to meet part of our Riverbridge team and understand the services that we provide our community. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us at info@riverbridgerc.org. Have a good day.